All right, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I call this August 18, 2020 Strategic Planning Committee to order. I want to welcome everyone here. Thank you for attending on Zoom and in person. We had a few changes. We were talking about race relations and diversity discussion on the Complete Count Committee last month. However, because the Complete Count Committee is dedicated to the census, I have decided to switch over our diversity and race relations discussion and dialogue over to our Strategic Planning Committee that I chair. We used to have quarterly meetings. We will be having more meetings in strategic planning, hopefully every month. And one of the purposes of Strategic Planning Committee here is to monitor the progress and development of our core imperatives that we have, one of which is diversity and inclusion, which is the newest imperative that we have. So in order to accommodate this imperative and to also monitor the progress through different departments, we will be having different communities come in for presentations so we can hear them, we can listen to them and listen to their needs. So we can be more accommodating and have people feel included in our county. Now, it may not be perfect, but we are trying our best to make sure that we take qualified, diverse people, diverse communities, quality and people who really bring a richness and significant contribution to our society. And I'd like to recognize that because there are so many communities that work hard in getting to where they are, and we need to listen to them. We need to recognize them and highlight their achievements. And also learning about our different departments as well and how we operate at DuPage County. There may be a lot of misunderstanding out there as to what each department does specifically. So today we have two special presentations from our Sheriff's Department with Sheriff James Mendrick, and we also have a presentation by State's Attorney Bob Berlin today from the State's Attorney's Office, and we're going to be learning about their offices and what their roles are and the challenges that they face and how we could all work as a community to help each other out. And as government, a lot of people want to put that that responsibility on one person or one department, but I think it would be more beneficial if we could all work together as a community and help each other to make sure that DuPage County not only stays the most prosperous county in the state of Illinois, but is enhanced and we keep making improvements and making our county better because this is our county. Everybody who lives here, this county belongs to us. All right, so I am going to move on to a roll call. If we could get a roll call, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Chair Covert.
Here.
Vice Chair Hart. Member Chaplin.
Here.
Member Eckhoff. Member Larson. Member Puchalski. We have two members present. And then do we have Member Rutledge as a member of the committee?
Yes.
For quorum purposes?
Yes.
And also Member Tornatore?
Yes, I'm a guest.
Yes.
As a guest. Okay. Okay.
We also have Member Chaplin, Member Ranahan, Member Jim Say, Member Don Desart, Member Tim Elliott as well. I would welcome them.
Okay, good.
Yes. And
Member Ozog is here as well.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any public comment?
We have no public comment for this meeting.
All right, moving on to approval of minutes. Do we have, I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Strategic Planning Committee Tuesday, February 11th, 2020?
So moved, Chaplin.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second? right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussions or additions, deletions, corrections to the minutes? All right, seeing none, hearing none, the minutes are approved. Moving on to,
Don't we have to vote on the minutes?
sorry. Can we get a roll call, please?
Covert.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Member Chaplin who moved.
Aye.
Okay. Then Member Covert.
Aye.
Aye. Hart is absent. Eckhoff. Larson, Puchalski. Member Rutledge.
Aye.
We have Member Ozog present also?
Yes, we
Member
do.
Zay?
And member Ranahan, member Concert, and
Okay.
member Zay.
Member Ozark, voting on the minutes to approve.
Aye.
Thank you. Member Zay
Aye.
and Member Renahan.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our next portion, our panel discussion. I would like to invite Sheriff James Mendrick to the podium for his presentation. Thank you, Sheriff Mendrick, for being here today and taking out your time to be with us.
A technical question, excuse me, really quick.
Chaplain? Yes.
I'm sorry, we just voted on the minutes, but I think members that were not on the committee voted on the minutes and they weren't made members of the committee. So I think we need to do a new vote on the minutes and only members of the committee voting on them, because we had members Renahan, Ozog, they vote on the minutes, but I don't believe they were made members of the committee. So I think we need to redo that vote. I'm sorry, but I think we need to do that.
I think that's right.
Go ahead, Connor.
I remember, Chaplain, just to address your question, the power to vest temporary membership in a committee lies with the committee chair. I heard at least Member Rutledge and Member Tornatori made members of the committee. It was my intent that I think she welcomed them all as members of the committee, but I could ask the chair's clarification. Madam Chair, did you make everyone that you welcomed to the committee a member of the
Yes, I
committee?
did. On the,
It wasn't clear. I don't think it was clear. We didn't vote on it. I don't remember voting on that, though. We have to vote on that, I believe, too, don't we, or no?
Chaplain, no, you don't.
Okay.
It's in the rules. I'm happy to provide it.
Okay, no, that's fine, as long as that's fine. I just want to make sure we're doing it right. I think Member Elliott was in agreement, but I guess we were both thinking incorrectly.
I was in agreement, and I guess we stand corrected, Liz.
Okay, and if then I wasn't part of the roll call, but I didn't think I was part of the roll call because I'm not officially a member. But if Chairman Covert made us all members, then I would vote aye as well.
yes, thank you. Can we please add member Desart as well? Thank you. Yes, we welcomed her as well, so. All right, thank you.
Thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate it. This for me is an opportunity to kind of tell you guys what we've been doing. I've been elected a little over a year and a half. We have 3 distinct environments within the sheriff's office, 4 really if you count the crime lab, but it's mainly correctional division, a courthouse, and a patrol detective function. So there's different strategies and different things that we have to accomplish in each one of these realms to succeed. So what we realized right in the beginning was that mental health and drug detox and recovery services were of paramount importance. We get about 80% of the people that come in our correctional facility are addicted. A lot of the addicted people, it's because they're self-medicating to quell mental health issues. So it's a combined problem. So what we have to first do in our correctional facility, we can't tell what type of mental health issue you're having until we peel off the addiction. So we start with the detox and drug recovery program so we can get the addiction in control to identify the mental health issues that the person might be experiencing. And again, these are big numbers. 80% of people having these issues begs to be dealt with. So we also offer even anger management programs. We have like a storybook program. We have our mantra in our correctional facilities, hope and purpose. We try to get people to buy into, because most of the rehabilitative programs are voluntary. So we have to try to convince people to participate in them, which has been working out astoundingly well. So we have like even a storybook program where you could read a children's book, and then there will be a recording made. So the spouse can take that recording and play it for the child, so you can still hear mom or dad read the story to the kid. We do PCRT, it's post-crisis response teams, where we have a deputy and a mental health clinician that actually also go out to homes the day after something happened, like a drug incident, a mental health incident. And then we go when the people are not in crisis, and then we can offer them a multitude of different remedies that they could use without having to call the police. We try to prepare them for dealing with some of these things internally by turning them on to resources when they're not in crisis. We're also the leader in de-escalation training. I believe this is why we have fared so well with citizen complaints, to not have one citizen complaint for use of force in the entire agency since my election began. I'm very proud, but I do believe it is a byproduct of our de-escalation training. We've trained over 700 police officers. That's 40% of the countywide total. It teaches a lot of things. And, you know, I think what we have to realize is to succeed, we have to learn, I think, almost reprogram people to just basically, how do you treat a person? And when we train this, we monitor everything from decibel level of your voice to your flexion, your demeanor, your body language, all those things that influence so much of what people think of you within that first 30 seconds. We combine that de-escalation training with mental health training. It's for developmental disorders or actual, larger mental health issues. So we train that. It's a videotape training, then it's critiqued where people could see where maybe they missed a cue or they properly did a cue, and you can bolster or train out any bad habits. This is a way for us to have documented training and the ability to have somebody actually have to perform those functions of how to communicate with the person in front of us who are going to judge the material in a training course. So we are starting, Under Sheriff, was it next week that we're starting our other blade of training? The 20th, we're starting our first day of that same de-escalation training. We kept the backbone of de-escalation, and we added racial diversity instead of the mental health elements. So we really did a lot of work. We interviewed more than 60 people that were incarcerated in our facility to find out what flashpoints brought them there with the police, and certain things that we found out. Even something as simple as a group of people telling us that they don't like it when policemen come and ask them for a driver's license when they've done nothing wrong, know that they can't have the license but pursue it anyway. So to find out even something small like that, that is now part of that training scenario. We want to see which policeman in training scenario would actually try to get that license from somebody when they're doing nothing wrong and demand an ID when they shouldn't. So we took a lot of data. We had a great deal of minority groups help develop this training. It's very robust. We believe it'll have the same effect as the other de-escalation for mental health, but we wanted to do something more. We want to make sure that we're really aggressing this, that we're making sure that our community knows that we're transparent in what we're doing. Since I've been elected, we have had only one use of force complaint, period. In the entire time I've been elected, that was a reported use of force within the correctional facility by another deputy. So, there is no thin blue line that protects deputies from deputies. We police our own. So the only use of force complaint that I've had since I've been elected was an internal complaint from one deputy against another, and we terminated that person. So, that tells you how we deal and how serious, and this was a year ago before any of this other stuff happened. We take action. We're a very serious agency, and that's why we have so few complaints. We do a lot of work even with the community during all this COVID crisis. We had It Takes a Village program to where we were actually meeting with all these different businesses that had food that they wouldn't be able to sell. We were getting the food, taking it into all these different communities of impoverished people. Kay from Scarce gave us a quite good list of people who were most needy. And think of that optic. So instead of, your SWAT van rolling into a neighborhood and cops jumping out for a call for service, you're getting the vans rolling into a neighborhood, doors are popping over, and they're handing out meals to a bunch of people in the community. These are the community services that really work for us. So once we started doing stuff like this, then all of a sudden we had all these community groups, homeowners groups, business associations coming to help us with PPEs, feeding us while we were working. I mean, we bonded so much with our community. So when then the demonstrations occurred, we had already had so many established sets of relationships that we didn't have any conflicts with the peaceful demonstrators. They were all, very, very good to us. We had the first few days, there was some active looting, but those were criminal elements that were within peaceful demonstrations. And that happens. There are opportunists when these things happen. And there was some stress involved in that. But again, we had no use of force complaints from any of those people, or any complaints that matter from any of the people involved over a lot of protests over a pretty long period of time. We got to know the people who ran the protests and worked with them like we would anybody else. This is what we do. We interact with our community. We're not, stormtroopers. Even with COVID, with the social distancing, we went to every single call generated by anybody who wasn't properly following the social distancing rules. But every single one was easily be able to resolve by speaking to the people and in a normal way, not intimidating them or scaring or threatening them. And we had full compliance. We have a compliant DuPage County, but I think partially it is the way that we police. We are not the same as Cook County and Chicago. I'm sorry, we're just not. It is different here in DuPage. Our crime rates, and I don't have the numbers, that'll be for State's Attorney Berlin maybe to review a little bit, but crime has really increased in levels that I've never seen in my 24-year career. We've had spikes of sometimes 400 or 600% in certain crimes. And for me, that's unheard of. But for that to be occurring and us still not having all of these uses of force or complaints against us for treatment, we're working with our citizens. Even in our correctional facility, we have a very robust work program where we're teaching people to have a future, to work in the janitorial services, which, by the way, I still have a 100% COVID-free correctional facility. That's 500 people. Thank you. It's a lot of work, and I'll be honest, it's a lot of stress every time, because we had 4 sent to us that we were worried were COVID positive. So way we do it, we have a vacant 4th floor. So everybody goes into an incubation floor for 15 days before they go into general population. That way they can never get the actual population of people in there. What we do though, if we have what I call a stress case, where we're worried that we're getting one showing up at our front door, we have a negative pressure cell that we can utilize that's ancillary to the jail. It doesn't touch any other portion of the jail. So we have had 4 people come in with COVID and we stopped them and they never even entered the jail. So they never got our population. Those have all been resolved with nobody being infected, but we have not had one case within our jail. We have changed the ventilation system. Actually, I should give that credit to facilities management, who did a great job, but it's called an HVAC ventilation system, and it's been modified to where it removes all particulate matter from the air. So, COVID, it's going to affect you most likely one of 2 ways. One is going to be airborne pathogen, and that's a suspended air particle, but by venting air externally and safely, we are able to have no rebreathable air with that environment. So it's clean air. So there's your one vector. Your other biggest one is touch surfaces. So there comes our contagion control team, our janitorial services. So while that gives me what I would take the challenge against any other correctional facility, that I have the cleanest one anywhere, this crew even follows new people into the facility and cleans behind them until they get to the cell that they're going to. So, I mean, we're that aggressive with cleanliness and with the air. So that removes most of the vectors possibility. So also when people are getting out, these janitorial service jobs, they're in demand now. Now all these businesses, they're worried about COVID, and we're training with all the most modern janitorial tools. So they're actually getting a certification and they can get up to $18 an hour jobs when they get out. And we've done welding also. We're now looking at painting and tiling. We're doing Hope's Garden right now, which is horticulture, which is a great therapeutic service for people who are in drug recovery and drug detox. We've been using it for that and for our female incarcerated people. That has been just a wonderful program. We're anticipating about 1,500 pounds of food coming from Hope's Garden, and that will go to all local food pantries. And again, we'll be taking care of our impoverished communities. So what we do is basically, all this stuff has occurred for a multitude of different reasons, which means we can't unroll all of this stuff that's been going on overnight. But what we can do is if you figure there's 20 problems that might have caused something, we should be looking at 30 to 40 potential solutions. Eventually you overrun the problems with solutions, and that's what the goal is. So every time we can modify operation or add in another arrow into the quiver of something that we can do to help, we do. And it's been very successful so far. It's created a very harmonious relationship with our county here in DuPage. So that's kind of my wrap up of what we've done for the last year and a half.
I had a really quick question, Sheriff Medrick. Are you working with WorkNet DuPage? Is your department working with WorkNet DuPage as well when it comes to the employment of post-incarceration?
Yes, they're a great organization. They've been helping us from the beginning.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? All right, thank you, Sheriff Medrick.
Thank you so much. Appreciate all your time.
Next, I'd like to welcome State's Attorney Bob Berlin from the State's Attorney's Office. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Chair Covert and members of the committee. I'm honored to be here to say a few things about State's Attorney's Office, some of the issues that we're facing, and some of the things that we're doing in the office. Let me start out by saying our first mission as prosecutors is to seek justice in each individual case. And that justice oftentimes is very different in each individual case, depending on the facts and the circumstances. But everything that the professionals in our office do, including our trial practice, policy development, and programming, is guided by two concerns: protecting the public and defending the rights of victims. Now, we have a criminal and a civil division, as well as a child support enforcement bureau. Most of what I'm going to be talking about this morning is on the criminal side. In terms of what's happening on the criminal side, as Sheriff Medrick pointed out, we have seen an increase in certain crimes. Our felonies since 2016 are up by 25%. In 2019, we had almost 2,900 felonies that we charged in DuPage County. Domestic violence cases, we charged over 1,600 in 2019. There were 2,812 DUI cases that were charged. Some of those are village prosecutions. Some of them are handled by my office. And there were close to 2,600 misdemeanor cases that were charged in 2019. In terms of increase of what we're seeing, burglaries are up 95% in 4 years. There were 250 that we charged in 2016. 2019, we charged 488. Identity theft. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can't hear
Okay.
that. There's, yeah.
In terms of identity theft, that's up 37% over the course of 4 years. And aggravated vehicular hijacking, there were 3 in 2017. We charged 4 in 2018, 6 in 2019, and so far in 2020, we've charged 10. 3 of those committed by juveniles. One of the issues we're dealing with right now is the number of pending felony cases because of COVID-19 and the courts, except for essential services really being shut down for a while. The number of cases have increased. There are actually 8% more cases pending right now than there were last year. So how do we advance the goal of public safety and hold offenders accountable while protecting the rights of victims? We have, over the years, gotten very creative, and we've really advanced in terms of how we handle a lot of cases. One of the things we're doing with drug possession cases is seeking treatment more and more, whether it's through drug court or whether it's through our focus court. And our focus court has 434 predisposition cases pending. 529 post-disposition cases. These are all first offender drug cases. And if they complete this program, they can get these offenses dismissed and expunged from their record. This court, by the way, received an award from NACO for its innovation last year. We have a number of specialty courts, some of which I believe are the gold standard in the state of Illinois. Our drug court was just certified by the Administrative Office of Illinois Courts. There's 77 cases pending in drug court right now. Drug court is an opportunity for offenders, many of them with serious criminal backgrounds, but they're addicted to drugs and they've committed nonviolent crimes. It's an opportunity for them to avoid prison. And it has, for those who complete the program, we have an outstanding success rate, and it costs far less to treat offenders in drug court than it does to incarcerate them. Our mental health court, through August of 2018, we had 742 defendants accepted into mental health court, or MyCap. 547 of those graduated, which is 74%. Our diversion program has accepted 319 cases as of July 27th, 2020. 198 have successfully completed that program, and there's 77 active cases right now, which is actually a 40% increase from 2018. These are nonviolent offenders, first-time nonviolent felons who plead guilty, and they're put into this program. There's a number of conditions they have to comply with, and if they do everything they're supposed to, then at the conclusion of the program, case is dismissed, and they can get these cases expunged. And we have a 97% success rate with that program. I want to mention our juvenile courtrooms, because when I first started as an assistant state's attorney in DuPage County in 2004, I was deputy chief of the Juvenile Division. At that time, we had 3 courtrooms handling over 1,100 juvenile delinquency cases that we filed every year. 1,100. Now we're down to 2 courtrooms. Last year, we filed 446 juvenile delinquency cases. It's down from over 1,100. So is our crime way down? Not necessarily, but how we're handling the cases has changed dramatically. We do much more diversion and out of court. We deal with a lot of those cases outside of court through our juvenile probation department, through the use of preliminary conference, and through use of programs like peer jury, which are incredibly successful. Out of those 446 last year, 30 of those were school threat cases. School threat cases we take very seriously. Those are always filed in court. But we are, when it comes to juvenile justice, we are the gold standard in the state of Illinois. In terms of legislation and how it affects our office, and a lot of this has become very public. There's a number of bills that have been filed for the upcoming session already, but I just want to talk about some of them and the impact on criminal justice. The Bail Reform Act went into effect January 1st, 2018. And in Illinois, they created Category A and Category B offenses. Category A's are your more serious felonies. Category B's are all of your misdemeanors, including Class 3 and 4 felonies, with some exceptions. In 2017, there were 426 FTAs, or failures to appear in court, in the Category A's. Last year in 2019, there were 604. So we went from 426 to 604, which is a 42% increase. In terms of our Category B offenses, in 2017, there were 824 failures to appear. Last year, that went up to 1,306, which is a 58% increase. These are defendants out on bond who do not show up in court. And when they don't show up in court, a warrant gets issued, and in many of these cases, we're not going to see them back in court unless they get rearrested on another offense. In 2018, we did a lot of research on this. For the Category B offenders who failed to appear in court, 114 were charged with new offenses while there was a failure to appear warrant outstanding. That's 11.83%. So 114 of those committed new offenses, including burglaries, armed robberies, retail thefts, DUIs, and unlawful use of a weapon. So that is a very disturbing problem as a result of that legislation. There are lots of discussions. There are a lot of committees that are trying to address the bail situation in Illinois. We want it to be fair. We don't want people in custody pretrial just because they can't afford their bail. But we do want people in custody when they're dangerous to the public. So trying to strike that balance is something hopefully that is going to be addressed in the upcoming legislative session. The juvenile jurisdiction automatic transfer law that went into effect in 2017. This law deals with juvenile jurisdiction, and it removed armed robbery with a gun and aggravated vehicular hijacking with a gun from the automatic transfer. So for juveniles who commit those offenses, in order to try them as adults, we have to have a hearing, we have to file a petition. The first year that went into effect, there was a huge increase in carjackings in Chicago. There were over 1,000 carjackings, or close to 1,000, in 2017, 70% of which were committed by juveniles. So the reality is that what happens in Springfield in terms of legislation absolutely has a direct impact on what we do in the criminal justice system. Couple other things, a couple other items of legislation that were important. Back in 2002, the General Assembly passed a bill. It was actually sponsored by Joe Burkett, who was the state's attorney at the time, mandating that anyone convicted of a felony has to submit specimens of blood, saliva, or tissue for genetic marker testing. It goes into a database. Just a few years ago, everyone remembers Christy Wesselman, a 15-year-old student who disappeared coming back from the Jewel grocery store in Glen Ellen. That was a cold case for 35 years. And we were only able to charge the defendant, Michael Jones, because his DNA that was left at the crime scene matched a DNA sample taken from him when he was convicted of a felony in Champaign County. That's a great example of how legislation is supposed to work. Another important piece of legislation that was passed in went into effect 2019 was the firearm restraining order, which allows family members of a respondent or police officers to petition the court and alleging that a person poses a danger of causing personal injury to himself, herself, or another by having in their custody or control a firearm. Since that law went into effect, we have filed 26 petitions, which is far more than any other county in the state of Illinois. In fact, we have worked with the Attorney General's office in training other counties. My chief of criminal, Nancy Donahoe, has trained the Illinois Coalition Against Handgun Violence, as well as the Illinois Council Against Handgun Violence, trained other counties on how to utilize this law and what needs to go in a petition in order to get one of these granted. So the result of these petitions is a huge benefit to public safety. Lastly, the rights of crime victims, which was based on a constitutional amendment that passed in 2014. It went into effect in 2015. This was passed by Illinois voters. 78.4% of Illinois voters approved the constitutional amendment to protect crime victims' rights. And it's something that we take very seriously in this county. We have a victim witness unit, victim services unit, staffed by professionals, and we work with victims and their families from the very beginning of a case all the way through the appeal. And we give what I call Cadillac treatment to our victims. In terms of training, all of our attorneys receive training every single year. There's not only mandatory continuing legal education training that the state mandates, but we also provide in-house training as well as training through the Criminal Law Committee of the DuPage County Bar Association. And twice a year, the Prosecutors Bar Association does two major trainings, which addresses many different topics. Of note, which I do want to mention, in January of 2019, along with the Kane County State's Attorney's Office, we sponsored a training called We the People. And Jane Reardon, who's the Executive Director of the Illinois Supreme Court Commission on Professionalism, spoke at that training on how to overcome blind spots, biases, and stereotypes. All of our assistant state's attorneys were trained on developing strategies to interrupt bias, unconscious bias. And we plan on repeating that training in 2021, hopefully in person. If not, we're going to start doing a lot of these via Zoom. In conclusion, there's a passage from Berger versus the United States, which is a United States Supreme Court case authored by Justice Sutherland. And this is in 1935. And this is really, this passage is what guides us and what we consistently remind ourselves of and must follow. And that is that the prosecutor is the representative not of an ordinary party to a controversy, but of a sovereignty whose obligation to govern impartially is as compelling as its obligation to govern at all, and whose interest, therefore, in a criminal prosecution is not that it shall win a case, but that justice shall be done. As such, he is in a peculiar and very definite sense the servant of the law, the twofold aim of which is that guilt shall not escape or innocence suffer. He may prosecute with earnestness and vigor. Indeed, he should do so. But while he may strike hard blows, he is not at liberty to strike foul ones. It is as much his duty to refrain from improper methods calculated to produce a wrongful conviction as it is to use every legitimate means to bring about a just one. And that is something that we are constantly training our attorneys on, and something that we constantly remind all of our assistants of, our obligation to the public. And that's really, again, what it's about. Justice in one case can be very different than justice in another case. Every case is different. Every defendant is different. Every victim is different. And every factual scenario is different.
Thank you. I had a really quick question. The legislation that you mentioned with the bail bond reform and the juvenile auto transfer law, does it have any impact on your, does this place a financial burden on your office or any type of financial impact when these type of legislations, pieces of legislation are passed? How does it affect your office?
So if you look at just the bail law, when defendants don't show up in court, the victims in those cases and the community is denied justice. What happens to those victims when they can't sleep at night, knowing that the person charged with victimizing them is not in court, there's a warrant outstanding for them. So there's a huge social cost, but it also increases our caseload because they're given an opportunity, they're given 30 days to show up before judgment enters on the bond forfeiture. And for the felony cases, we go to the grand jury and we indict them on bail jumping for the class 3 felonies and above. And the bail jumping cases have increased dramatically over the last couple of years. So that increases the caseload, which, yes, has a huge financial impact on the office.
Do we have any questions from committee members? Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Okay,
State's
thank
Attorney
you.
Berlin. All right, moving on to old business. Do we have any old business? All right. Any new business? All right, hearing none, seeing none. I entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, any second? Can I second? Second, all right. And we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. See you next month.